Hello everyone and welcome back to Evaluating Out-of-State Rental Property. I'm Jeff Costa, and this week we're going to take a little bit of a different tack. I'm not going to show my face this week to see if you guys like having more screen real estate without a talking head in it. The subject of this week is going to be a little bit different as well. Instead of evaluating a single property, we're going to look at using the price to rent ratio. We'll explain what that is a little bit later. We're going to explain how to use the price to rent ratio to not be seduced by a rehab. So here I've got a property that recently experienced a price cut about 4 days before I recorded this and is now contingent. Now, setting aside what you see on the outside, which is this sort of sloped roof line here on the deck, this is a rehab, right? And you can really see that in the pictures below. In fact, my wife walked in when I had this on the screen and she said, "That's a really pretty house." And that is a common reaction, right, to seeing something like this, you know, a really well done rehab. And we'll look at some of these pictures, and again, really nice. You see the dome lights at the top. I've got the gray paint that is so popular today. New, fresh white cabinets, shaker cabinets with backsplash outlets. You've got the LVP, the vinyl, luxury vinyl plank flooring, right? It's just, here's a better picture of it, right? And no appliances because it's a rehab, which is something that you would have to purchase. Very typical for a rehab, right? So not a problem per se. But here you can see that they've got new tile in the bathroom. Again, setting aside the fact that the bathroom's next to the kitchen, in terms of where the shower is located, that's a different story. You've got, you know, new tile in the shower, right? New doors. This looks gorgeous, right? New vanity, new fixtures, tub looks good. Here's another room right here. Again, fresh paint, new LVP, and so forth. And it does look really, really good. And as an investor, you look at this and you think, well, gosh, I really won't have that much capital expense, right? Because all of this is done, and you would be right. Right? A lot of this work has been done for you. Here's an upstairs washer dry room, a great convenience for a tenant. And again, this appears to be the upper unit. So again, you see new backsplash, new cabinets, bit of a different look up here, but still fresh, right? LVP, everywhere you look. Again, no appliances, but that's very typical in a rehab. So, you know, it is rent ready, right? You could get a tenant in here immediately, right? I can see a new ceiling fan up here. This looks like new column work. Really pretty, right? Super nice house. I'm almost at the end of the photos. Again, a laundry room right here on the upper. Mechanicals, this one looks like a newer water tank. You'd have to obviously check it. And a relatively new, but probably a 10 or 15 year old furnace. It looks like some reasonable electrical, more modern electrical, and that looks pretty clean as well. And the outside, at least on the corner of the house that they're showing here, looks good, right? Your lizard brain should be going, well, where's the rest of the pictures of the other house, right? But, you know, you can see what was done here, right? This looks like a new window here at the top. It's even still got the tag on it up in the attic. So, you know, a lot of investors would jump on this house because it is actually considered rent ready. And you can even see this, right? New butcher block, new plank flooring, new porch decking, and the home is contingent. 21 people had saved this. So somewhere between when they did this on 8/11 and cut the price by $7K, someone decided to put this under contract within the last 4 days. And you can kind of see that by, you know, scrolling down in terms of the pending sale. Now, the thing you have to be worried about is being seduced by a home like this, right? Gorgeous on the inside, but one of the things that you always need to check is the location of this home, right? Because I want to be able to rent this home out in a way that can support my 1% rule, right? Or something close to that. So if I'm paying $243,000, then I need to be able to come somewhere near that $2,400 rent amount, right? So divide that by 2 and you got your $1,200, right? So 1% rule, that's kind of where I should be. So one of the things that I look at here when I see a rehab, and it's just kind of a reaction, is I go down here to the actual Google map and I look at lot lines, right? So this actually is a tool that is meant to show you like, hey, where does your lot actually stack up against the rest? But one of the kind of things that you don't expect, and kind of an unexpected benefit of this, is that I can see the price of other homes around me. Again, here's my $243K home with a rehab. Look what's around me. $70K, $37K, some empty lots that are worth about $2.5K. Here's one for $101K, right? Same street. Looking across the street, $65K, $100K, $138K, $90K. Or, just down the road on the same side of the street, $71K, $70K. You get the idea, right? Even if I go one street over, really doesn't change the story very much. There is no house that is near 243K, right? They're all kind of hovering around that 70 to 100K mark. This is information you have to take into account. If you were to purchase this house, even as rent ready as it is, you are suddenly the most expensive house in the neighborhood. And you all know the rule in real estate of that you don't want to be that, right? So there's my first red flag. The second thing I look at is, okay, if I need to get, $1,200 a month of rental income out of each unit, can the people who live in this area support that rent with the wages that they earn? So one of the things I like to look at is the so-called rent to income ratio. And this is a great little calculator here. And we're going to come back to this in a moment. But what I like to do is start looking for data on, the average income of someone who lives in this zip code, right? It's as close as you can get. I can't get to the street level, but I can get at least a modest idea of income. Here I see the median household income is $33,140 for this zip code, which is even lower than for Buffalo proper, and certainly lower than Erie County itself. Now, I like to use this source. This is incomebyzipcode.com, but you cannot just depend on a single source. So I like to look at multiple sources. So here we are at niche, and we see the same $33,140. Now, that's probably not a coincidence, right? What that's telling me is both of these websites are sourcing their data from the same place, which is oftentimes the most recent census. Here's another one, www.newyork-demographics.com. And you can see the exact same number highlighted in purple, right? In 2020, this was the median outcome, $33,140. And you can see that some made slightly higher, but again, it's something that you want to take into account. And I also look at some other sources, like here's, bestplaces.net, right? And here, the story gets even worse, right? We have a median income of 24 grand, a 9.5 unemployment rate, and it's actually been losing population to the tune of about 2% per year since 2020. So again, some red flags. Another source in Best Places is kind of just looking at this graph, right, to understand salaries. And again, you're kind of getting a recapitulation here of that same data. But it's kind of interesting to see this graph, income by population percent, right? How many people are really, because a median can hide a lot of things, right? But by and large, what you see here is that in this zip code, a great deal of people are living very close to the poverty line, 27.8%, making under 15K, right? So again, having all of that in mind, what can someone afford in this actual zip code, right? And again, I'm assuming here that there's going to be a single renter in each unit. Now, this may not be reality, right? Because this is a 3-1. You could have 3 roommates here splitting the rent and have them pay that rent divided by 3. But you have to be careful, right? Of can the people who want to live here or do live here pay that rent? So one of the things we'll do here is we'll grab this 33,140 number, and we're going to plug it into this rent to income ratio. If you're not familiar with rent to income, it's defined for you here. It's the percentage of an income that a tenant will need to devote to rent, right? As opposed to the other things that they have to spend on, such as a car payment or utilities, groceries, and other things. So one of the things I like to do is use this calculator once I figure out what the renter's monthly gross income is, and to kind of see what that rent to income looks like. So to derive this ratio, what you have to do is figure out how much someone we're using median, someone in this zip code would make. And we're going to go to the Goog here. And for those who don't know, Google is a calculator as well. And we're going to take that 13,140 and divide it by 12, and we get 2761, right? In terms of income. I'm going to take that 2761 from here and plug it into the calculator. This is the renter's monthly gross income. You can see it kind of defaults to 5,000. If I click in there, to 2791, now I've got that set. And we'll take, taking that 1% rule, right? You've got to make 1% of your purchase price in rent. So we'll say, just being conservative, $1,200 a month, right? $2,400 total, $1,200 for the upper, $1,200 for the lower. And let's take a look at what happens when I plug in $1,200. I get, if you saw it changed right here, a rent to income ratio of 43%. Now that is well above the 30% that we want to see as a landlord, right? We don't want 43% bordering on 50% of someone's income to go to rent, right? Because that means they have no money left over to do anything else, right? So if I was, really looking at this, I might say, well, what's 1,000? Oh, we're still over 36%, right? Let's go to 800. We're almost right there. So maybe 850. Oh, even that's a little bit too high. So maybe 830. There we go. So ideally, 830 is what you would need to charge, and to get to that 30% ratio where it's not an overwhelming amount of money being devoted to rent by a renter, right? So, this is something you need to take account. It's not the only thing, but think about this as a problem, right? You would need to be able to have enough roommates in there to get this, which you could do. But if this was a single person with a family, right, that's what they'll have to pay. And I think this is often neglected, right? That it's 830. And then I think the next thing you want to do is you want to see like, hey, what is the average rent for this part of the world? And there's different tools you can use to do that. And I suggest, as we use multiple tools for our own information here to get the median income, we're going to do the same thing here. So I'm just going to plug this street address into Zillow, and let's see what Zillow's rent estimate looks like. Okay, so it's $10.64 a month. That's what they think this should be. Awesome. So you can put that back in here, $10.64, right? And I am still at 39%, right? So that's what, again, this is one source, right? Let's use RentCast, see what they think. And again, you want to try different tools here. So again, this is a 3-bed, 1-bath. Let's see what they say. $1,300 is the estimated monthly rent. Cool, let's plug that back in. I think you know where this is gonna go. 47%. Let's see what Rentometer thinks, right? This is always the gold standard. So I pop in the address, it finds it. We're gonna say a 3-1, look back for 3 months. What does Rentometer say? Again, $1,364 in this neighborhood with a median of $1,400. So, $1,364 is almost 50%. So again, you have to be careful here, right? It's not to say that you couldn't get $1,364, right? But when you look at the rent around you, are those other units getting $1,364? And the next step here would be to look at something like apartments.com and look for some comps to see, can you really get this? Right? And you can plug this into Deal Check and they'll kick out some comps. And go look at apartments.com by plugging in the address and seeing what you can get. Right? The thing I want you to walk away from this episode is that just be careful about rent to income ratio. Right? This incredibly sexy rehab that you could move someone into tomorrow, you might not find that person, right? Because the income isn't there. The person who makes money on this is the guy who did the rehab and sold it for $243K. It might not be you. All right, that's it for our episode. Thank you all for your time, and we'll be back next week with more content.